Hello there. Thank you for taking the time to sit with me today. I want to start this conversation with a simple question, yet one that is surprisingly hard to answer. The last time you sat in silence just to listen to yourself, when was that? I ask this because most of us, especially as we step into middle age or later years, often live in such a noisy world that we forget the value of stillness. We are surrounded by newswork, our children relationships, and sometimes even people who drain our energy. And in the middle of all this chaos, we gradually lose the ability to sit down and truly feel what we need. I remember once a friend of mine around my age went through a crisis after retirement. He said, "When I was working, I had colleagues' business cards, a packed weekly schedule. But suddenly, overnight, it all disappeared. I sat at home, looking out the window, and asked myself, who am I if I no longer have that job?" Have you ever felt like that? When a part of your identity suddenly vanishes and you feel lost. I believe many people over 40 or 50 will go through this feeling. And in that moment, what we need most is inner strength. Something that does not depend on applause from others, nor on social recognition. That strength comes from stillness, from the ability to face solitude and the cracks inside ourselves. It may sound philosophical, but psychology also supports this. Recent studies show that people who make time to be alone in silence, rather than fearing it, tend to manage their emotions better, reduce stress, and make wiser decisions. In other words, sometimes doing nothing is exactly how we are building strength. I want you to imagine a morning. You wake up, step onto your balcony holding a warm cup of coffee. No phone ringing, no TV noise, just the wind and birds outside. In that moment, you don't need anyone to see you. You don't need to prove anything. Yet strangely, you feel complete. That is the stillness I'm talking about. I know many will object, but I can't just sit like that. My mind is always racing. Bills, health, the future of my children. And I understand, because I've been there too. Many years ago, when work was hectic, when I was chasing goals out there, I thought only when I achieve this or receive that recognition will I feel at ease. But the truth is, the more I chased, the more exhausted I became. Once after a health scare, I was forced to stop. And it was during that time of rest, with no applause, no titles, that I realized true strength does not lie in the crowd. It is forged in quietness. I learned to rise without anyone clapping. And from that moment, my life changed completely. Do you recognize this feeling? Perhaps you've experienced losses, a loved one passing, declining health, or a broken relationship. Those moments are like a bell reminding us. It's time to turn inward. It's time to learn how to live with yourself. Pain. I like to call it the harshest teacher, because it does not lie. It simply shows us the cracks inside. It forces us to face them, to repair them. Pain doesn't come to break us. It comes to help us grow, to become deeper, wiser. Another psychological study shows that as people age, they are better at transforming pain into lessons, patience, and empathy. Have you noticed that those who have endured many losses tend to be calmer? They are not hasty, not impulsive, because they understand that everything passes. And they are also more empathetic toward others' suffering, because they know the feeling firsthand. I remember a student of mine, a woman around 55, said something I'll never forget. I used to fear being alone. But now I've learned that solitude is not an enemy. It's like a room where I can rest and talk with myself. It may sound strange, but indeed, when we stop running from loneliness, we begin to find strength in it. I want to pause for a moment and ask you, have you ever tried sitting down and writing 3 things that you truly cherish in life? Not possessions, not titles, but 3 things that make you feel grateful and peaceful. If you haven't, I sincerely encourage you to try. Because in those few simple minutes, your mind will settle, and you'll realize you already have more than you think. What I want you to remember from the beginning of this video is this: true strength does not come from outside. It comes from the ability to be silent, to be steady, and to stand firm even when no one is watching. And believe me, that strength is what will carry you through your darkest days and keep you grounded through your brightest. In the next few minutes, I will share with you some personal experiences, real-life stories, and even insights from science, so that together we can understand how to turn stillness, pain, and even solitude things we often fear, into a source of strength, into true value in our journey of growth. My dear friend, we've just talked about inner strength, the kind that is forged in stillness and through pain. Now I want to go deeper with you. How do we truly face, learn from, and transform experiences that seem difficult into real-life value? I often tell my students that life is like a brilliant but incredibly strict teacher. This teacher never gives you a warning before a test and rarely explains things immediately. But if we are patient enough, every fall, every tear becomes a precious lesson. The question is, are we willing to listen and learn from them? 1. Pain is not meant to be avoided but transformed. A close friend of mine once lost his wife after more than 30 years together. I remember that period clearly. He was consumed by grief and often told me I don't want to go on anymore. Yet a few years later, when I met him again, I saw a different person, calm, gentle, and especially attentive to others. I asked him, "What changed?" He replied, "Pain taught me to cherish every moment. I realized none of us truly have as much time as we think. I learned to love more deeply and to let go of the small things." You see, pain did not destroy him. It actually recreated him into a new version of himself. And science confirms this. Researchers call it post-traumatic growth. After going through a crisis, many people don't just recover. They grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I want to ask you, do you still hold on to some pain that hasn't healed? And if so, are you willing to see it as a teacher rather than an enemy? 2. Strength comes from the ability to let go. Interestingly, the older we get, the more we understand the value of letting go. When we're young, we think we can hold on to everything. Prestige, money, love, relationships. But after 50 or 60, we realize one truth: the more we cling, the heavier we feel. I recall a workshop where a woman stood up and shared, "I spent half my life trying to please everyone. Now I'm exhausted. I realize I can't make anyone happy if I'm not happy myself first." Exactly. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means making choices. Choosing what truly matters and leaving behind what drains your energy. When you let go, you don't lose. In fact, you reclaim yourself. I want you to reflect in your life right now. Is there something you are stubbornly holding on to, but that no longer brings you joy? Perhaps a drained relationship, a stressful job, or even old habits that no longer serve you. If you dare to let go, you'll feel much lighter. 3. Solitude. Enemy or friend? Another topic I often discuss with people over 50 is the feeling of loneliness. Children have grown and left home. Friends are seen less often. Sometimes sitting in a large room, you can hear your own thoughts echoing. But you know what? Loneliness isn't necessarily a tragedy. In fact, it can become a gift if we learn to embrace it. One of my students used to fear weekends because the house was too empty. But after a course, she began to change her perspective. Instead of seeing it as emptiness, she viewed it as an opportunity to read, journal, and tend her small garden. She told me, "Now I look forward to the weekend, because that's when I get to live authentically with myself." I want you to imagine this. If loneliness were a room, how would you decorate it? Would you let it remain dark, or would you fill it with light flowers and a cozy chair where you can converse with yourself? 4. Gratitude. A powerful medicine. In my many years of teaching, I've discovered a simple yet highly effective secret to living peacefully, practicing gratitude. It may sound cliché, but try it. Each morning, write down 3 things you are grateful for. It could be your health, a friend who always listens, or simply a beautiful sunny morning. Research from Harvard University shows that keeping a daily gratitude journal reduces stress, increases happiness, and even improves sleep. Have you ever tried this? If not, I encourage you to start tonight. Just a few minutes can calm your soul. And gradually, you'll realize that happiness isn't something distant. It's right here in the simple, ordinary things around you. 5. Slowing down. A forgotten art. We live in a world where speed seems to measure success. But notice this: the faster we go, the more we miss what truly matters. Once I had dinner with my family. Instead of talking, each person was glued to their own phone. Watching this, I realized we could live in the same house but in entirely separate worlds. From that day, I set a simple rule: no phones at the table. And you know what? Just this small change transformed the atmosphere. We laughed more, listened more, and felt more connected. Slowing down doesn't mean being lazy. It means daring to dedicate time to what truly matters. A leisurely walk, a conversation with a loved one without checking the clock, a moment to take a deep breath and feel alive. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you truly sat down doing nothing but enjoying a cup of tea? 6. Turning experiences into a legacy. When we reach our 50s or 60s, many ask me, what should I do to make the rest of my life meaningful? I often answer, turn your life experiences into a legacy for the next generation. You don't need to write a book or give speeches. Simply share your story with your children, grandchildren, or young people around you. Because what you've experienced, failures, successes, pain, joy, is a treasure that books cannot teach. I have a student who started writing his life diary and then printed a small book for his grandchildren. He said, I don't want them to know me only through a photograph. I want them to read what I've learned, so when they face hardships, they'll know their grandfather has been through the same and overcame it. See, sometimes the meaning of life isn't about how much we achieve, but about what we leave behind for others. My dear friend, these are some of the things I wanted to share in today's main section, from pain, letting go, solitude, gratitude, slowing down, to turning experiences into a legacy. Each is a piece of the puzzle, and when you bring them together, they create a picture of a life that is profound, peaceful, and truly valuable. My dear friend, if you've listened this far, I want to pause for a moment and speak directly to you, as if we were sitting across from each other holding a warm cup of tea and simply sharing from the heart. Because the conclusion isn't meant to summarize, it's meant for you to feel, reflect, and remind yourself of the strength you already hold within. 1. Inner strength doesn't need anyone's validation. Have you ever felt that the world around you is too noisy, and sometimes you wonder, am I good enough? Am I on the right path? I want you to know something very important. Your value doesn't come from others. It is not measured by praise, recognition, or society's approval. It comes from within you. I've worked with many students in their 50s and 60s, and one common thread I see is that they often let others define their worth. Children, colleagues, friends, all unintentionally become the yardstick of their lives. But when you learn to stand strong in solitude, when you listen to yourself, you realize no one can take away the value that you create for yourself. Imagine this: one day, you are sitting alone in a quiet room, no one around, no phone ringing, no noise. How would you feel? If you feel peace and confidence, that is the moment you recognize your inner strength is alive within you. 2. Learning to rise from failure. We've talked a lot about pain, but I want to emphasize, failure is not the end. It is a stepping stone for growth. I remember a story about a friend of mine, 55 years old, who lost his long-term job. He felt sad, disappointed, and wondered, do I even have another chance? But instead of stopping, he decided to learn a new skill: digital graphic design. At first, it was extremely challenging. He wanted to quit many times, yet after a year of persistence, he got his first contract and began building a new career. What I want to tell you is this: it's never too late to start again. Your life experience is your foundation. Your pain and failures are the raw materials to build a stronger version of yourself. And as you move forward, every step is steadier thanks to what you've already endured. 3. Patience is key. I want you to pause and think about time. It is the most precious resource we have. When we are young, we are often impatient, wanting everything instantly. But with maturity, I've realized everything that truly matters takes time. Another student, a 60-year-old woman, was eager to improve her health. She started exercising and eating healthy, but after a few weeks, seeing no immediate results, she became discouraged. I told her, your body isn't a machine. It needs time to adjust. Be patient, and you'll notice the difference in a few months. And indeed, after 3 months, she not only became healthier, but also felt mentally rejuvenated and more confident than ever. You see, patience is not procrastination. It's the way to nurture growth and enduring strength. 4. Living according to your own values. One question I often ask my students is, what do you truly cherish in life? Many respond with money status or recognition. But when we dig deeper, they realize the real value lies in being true to oneself, in kindness, integrity, courage, and the ability to live in accordance with what you believe. I want you to imagine this: you are 55, 60 looking back at your life. Are you satisfied with the choices you've made? Or do you regret living according to others' expectations? Remember, you still have the right to change your direction at any time. The values you create today determine your pride and peace in the future. 5. Learning to love yourself. Have you ever heard the saying, "No one can love you more than you love yourself"? This isn't a cliché. When you learn to love yourself, your body, mind, emotions, and past, you no longer depend on others' approval. I meet many students who try to please everyone but forget about themselves. I tell them, take time for yourself. Care for your health, do what you love, and reward yourself with good things. When you love yourself, others will see it and respect you more. Self-love is not selfish. It's the foundation for loving others fully and sustainably. 6. Cherishing meaningful relationships. I want to emphasize something important. Quality always matters more than quantity. When we are young, we often focus on the number of friends, social media followers, or popularity. But with age, we realize that a few genuine friends, people who listen, share, and understand, are far more precious than a crowd. One of my students once had many friends but still felt lonely. After choosing to nurture only meaningful relationships, she felt more peaceful and happy. That's when she realized the fewer, the deeper, the more lasting. Think about it. Who in your life truly deserves your time and affection? And have you given them enough? 7. The importance of flexibility. Life never goes exactly as planned. No matter how much we predict or prepare, unexpected events occur. Illness, loss, job changes, or even betrayal by loved ones. I want to share a story. A student of mine lost his primary income at 58. At first, he was angry and fearful, but after a few weeks, he decided to learn a new skill and take freelance contracts. A year later, his income not only recovered but exceeded his previous earnings. The lesson: flexibility and adaptability are more important than perfection. When you learn to adjust to change, you become stronger and more at peace, even when storms remain. 8. Caring for your mental well-being. Many people over 50 focus on physical health but forget that mental health is just as important. Meditation, yoga, journaling, or simply talking to a trusted person all help balance emotions, reduce stress, and improve decision-making. One of my students practiced 15 minutes of meditation every morning for 6 months. The result wasn't just inner peace. She also felt more energetic, less fatigued, and able to make daily decisions with clarity and ease. I want to ask you, have you spent time caring for your mental well-being? If not, where will you start? 9. Never stop learning. Even after decades of life, we need to keep learning. I often tell my students, age is just a number, but wisdom and experience are priceless assets. Learning isn't only about new skills. It's also about understanding people, emotions, and life itself. One student, 62 years old, started learning the guitar. At first, he was clumsy, but after a few months, he could play several songs and found unexpected joy. Learning keeps the mind sharp, brings excitement, and most importantly, helps you feel young and alive. 10. Focus on the present. How many times have we wasted time worrying about the past or future? I want to remind you, the present is the most precious gift. When you live in the moment, you feel joy, love, and peace more clearly. I once met a student who constantly regretted his past losses. I told him, you only have the present to live. The past is a lesson, not a prison. From then on, he focused on what he could do today, and his life became more fulfilling and less stressful. 11. Consistency builds strength. An important point I want to emphasize: strength doesn't come from luck or favorable circumstances. It comes from consistency. You can see it in your own life. Every day you choose to rise, care for your health, learn, love, and maintain gratitude. All these compound into enduring strength. One of my students exercised daily, rain or shine, in good moods or bad. After a year, she not only became healthy, but also became a role model for her community. This is proof consistency in habits, thoughts and actions create strength no one can take away. 12. Connecting with community. Finally, even as we find strength within, I remind you humans are meant to connect. Sharing your story experiences and even your pain with trusted people helps you feel complete. A friend of mine at 60 volunteers at a community center. He told me that helping others not only brings them joy, but also makes his life feel more meaningful. Think about it. What can you contribute to make the world around you a better place, even in small ways? You see, from pain, failure, solitude, gratitude, flexibility, learning to connection. All these form a complete picture. Life isn't a meaningless string of days. It's a journey of self-discipline growth and leaving your mark. You can face challenges, stand firm in solitude, turn suffering into lessons, live fully in each moment, and build a life to be proud of. Not because anyone is watching, but because you feel it yourself. And remember, you're not just living. You are becoming a strong, profound, and unbreakable person. No one can shake you if you know how to look within.